We're talking Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. There has been some controversy about this recently. Someone got on the apps and said that they did not find the main character Bree to be relatable. And to be honest, I can understand why someone might say that. But let's do a little rundown of what Legendborn is all about. After her mom's death, 16-year-old Bree Matthews stumbles into a hidden world of magic and danger at UNC Chapel Hill, where a secret society of Legendborn descendants of King Arthur's knights hunt demons, and a failed memory wipe awakens her latent powers and dark questions about her mother's past. As Bree infiltrates the Legendborn with the help of a rogue mage, she must navigate a looming magical war, her own burgeoning abilities, and a choice between vengeance and allegiance that could redefine her future. Now, I can understand why someone might not relate to Bree Matthews. If you don't know what it's like to not belong, to have doors shut in your face, for institutions to deny you entry, then Bree isn't a relatable character. If you can't extend your empathy and self-awareness to find common ground with others, then Bree is not a relatable character. If you've always deferred to others instead of standing on business, then Bree's not a relatable character. Essentially, if you're a wet blanket just twisting in the wind of society, then Bree is not a relatable character. If the only thing you've ever fought for in your life is Taylor Swift, girlhood, and Truly's, Bree is not a relatable character. And no shade on Truly's. Truly's is delicious. It's a delicious beverage. But Bree is a smart, strong, determined, and unflinching protagonist. If this is not something you can relate to, then Bree is not going to be a relatable character for you. And maybe you shouldn't read this book, because Bree knows exactly what she wants. She is willing to burn everything down to find the truth, to understand what happened to her mother, to understand what's happening to her. She will do anything. And yeah, for some people, that's not relatable. If everything has either been handed to you or you've convinced yourself that everything is just fine and you have nothing to fight for, then yeah, this isn't for you. This isn't a romance-forward book. There is a love triangle happening in it, but it's not just about that. It's not about finding romance. It's about finding the truth. So yeah, Bree might not be relatable, and that's more of a you problem. Don't read this book if that's the case. In general though, this is one of the best books I have ever read. I slept on Legendborn because I had really convinced myself that young adult was not something that I liked, because I'd read some young adults I didn't enjoy. As a kid, I read young adult very rarely, because especially when I was a kid, as a millennial, most of the young adult books were about boys. They were also a lot of people just sort of, again, swinging in the wind of what's happening around them versus having an agency. I ended up having to read a lot of adult books, and usually still written by men with female main characters. So it's so nice to see a book like this for kids these days, and for adults. As we know, young adult is something that a lot of adults read as well. And so I had really convinced myself that I didn't like it, that it wasn't a genre I enjoyed. But this year I read so many good young adult books, and I realized I had just been reading the wrong books. So I picked up Legendborn again. I'd seen it around, and I loved every second of it. It's like a long read because I listened to it, and I think I finished it in just a few days. It constantly had me going back for more. Bree has so much agency. She fights constantly against everyone trying to tell her that she needs to stop, that she needs to give up, that she needs to focus on her studies, or she needs to focus on her own life. She does not do that. She never compromises herself, and that made her an incredible character and someone I want to continue to read. I think it's ended up being a quadrilogy at this point. The third one came out this year in, I think, January, and it has gotten just as many good reviews as the first book. So I'm really stoked to keep reading it, and it is also one of the best magic systems I think I've ever read, because it takes into account that different cultures would have different magic systems, which I love. It adds so much more depth to the story when you have different cultures and different histories contributing to different kinds of magic and different understanding of that magic, and really interesting lore happening. And she doesn't just give you everything right away. Bree has to earn every little bit of the magic she has and wields. She has to earn every inch of it. and you don't just doesn't just receive magic and become the best at it right away. That doesn't happen. And there's a mystery happening as well, wondering what happened to her mother. When her mother died, there are a lot of mysterious things surrounding that death, and she's determined to find out what that is. So Legendborn was absolutely amazing. I'm definitely going to read the series, and I'm really bad at reading series. I think I've finished 4 in my life. I tend to read the first book and then move on, but this isn't one of them. And I honestly didn't think I needed to do a video about it because I feel like I've seen so many people talk about Legendborn and do a much better job talking about it than I could. But then I was at a writing conference in a room full of people and I brought up Legendborn and people hadn't even heard of it. And I was like, what is going on? How? Sometimes I feel like in my book talk and bookstagram, I am in a little silo in which I just assume everyone is seeing the same thing I am, which is not true. So I guess I'm making this video partially for that, but also because of that hot freaking take that person had about Bree not being relatable. I was like, what is happening? Why is this happening? How can you possibly say that? And my conclusion is that they're just boring people, and also there's obviously racism happening here. If you can't relate to someone going through this, then you've lived a really privileged life, for sure. If you've never really had to fight for anything and all you want to read is stuff where the protagonist just gets everything and is strong in ways that are relatable to you, which is honestly boring, but each their own, I guess. Enjoy that. Check out Legendborn. It was fantastic. I couldn't recommend it more. Thanks for hanging out with me for a little while. Let me know what you think of Legendborn, and if you find my take on this offensive, you can leave without letting me know that you're leaving. That's fine. I don't need to know that. But if you liked this, you can follow me and give me a little thumbs up action happening. I also write all about this on my blog, so you can check it out there as well.